These people already know I'll let that thing play for 4 or 5 minutes. I don't even care. Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the Straub Sports Show. Big bro here. Little bro here as well. Little bro, how you doing today?
You know, I was a little under the weather, but this show always knows how to bring me to life. So I'm ready. We're rolling. Let's do this thing.
Man, listen, I've had an awful week. Shout out, Mom. Your favorite guys are absolutely here. Pops is all capped out, ready to go. I don't know if that's on purpose or not. Sometimes it's not, but that's all right. Same thing, not under the weather. Awful week at work, awful weather. It's horribly hot. But man, I've been looking forward to this as well. Once again, thank you for joining us on the 216 Sports Network. Whether you're on the Facebook page, which is doing well and strong, make sure if you're there, you are liked and subscribed. If you like and you follow. If you are on the YouTube page, one of our 5,000 subscribers strong, make sure you give us a like and a subscribe there. Give us a follow all over the place. The 216 Sports Network, that's where you can find us. That's where you can find everybody. Who's everybody? What you mean, who's everybody? You know who everybody is. Stalling for the graphic. There it is. The 216 Sports Network. We got 4th and 15 with Mel and Smooth. The Jay Rich Show. The Rulers Minute with Rico McGee. Rico McGee has dropped multiple episodes this week from all over the place, from MAC football to the Olympics. Make sure you check those out and stick around because in a couple minutes, Rico McGee is going to join us to talk about MAC football, the thing he covers. He was at MAC Media Day, so we're going to have a fun one there. Outside Interference, our premier wrestling podcast. Mel dropped a major episode last night. Make sure that you go and check that out. It was late last night, so I had to go back and watch it this morning, honestly. But he had the Soul Taker on, a huge indie wrestler. If you follow any kind of wrestling on social media, that name is familiar to you. Go check that out. That was an awesome episode as well. And the Straub Sports Show. You know the Straub Sports Show. That's me and Lil Bro here. You can find us anywhere and everywhere on social media. You can find us on TikTok at the SBSS. You can find us on Twitter or X at Straub Sports. You can find us on Spotify. And as I've been promoting the hell out of it, I got to find us on Instagram, Straub Sports Show. All kinds of stuff going on there. Interviews, posts, the stuff that we share from our friends of the show. They're not sponsors. We're all having fun here. We're all trying to help grow each other businesses. Speaking of those businesses, KZ Productions, the YouTube page, make sure you're following there. If you're joining us from there, we appreciate you. And as always, you see the polo, you see the sleeve. Shout out to my guy Austin at Create Your Own Wave Apparel, rocking with us as always. Check them out on Instagram. Austin's dropping new stuff all the time, almost every week, honestly, new designs and stuff like that. Create Your Own Wave 2021. And make sure you check out the website itself, CYOWapparel.myshopify.com. Don't ride that wave. Create your own. And, man, get your candy. OldTimeCandy.com, your home for all your retro candy from the 50s on up through the 90s. Make sure you find them on Facebook at OldTimeCandy.com or OldTimeCandy.com just in general. I share a lot of that stuff because she's always got promos going. I got me a box. Get you a box. You heard that box. That's an empty box. I need to re-up on my box. That's all I got to say about that. One more. Couple things because we're going to be at some stuff. I want to give some stuff. Cage Thunder MMA. We are going to be at the pay-per-view on August 17th. Fight in the Flats. Me and Straub are going to be there. It's going to be an awesome time. Give a shout out to Ray as he was, and I'm going to get to Ray's news here too, but the Old Time Candy is solid. Ray bought with our promo code. So shout out to Ray for that. But Cage Thunder MMA, that August 17th show, Fight in the Flats, headlined by Bedford's own Jarrell Hodge. Tickets on sale. Get in for that. We will be there. Look us out for the polos. Look for the ball guy. Look for the guy with hair. We'll be there together. We're going to do some fun stuff. We're going to do some interviews, post-fight. We're going to give you some check-ins, live check-ins on Instagram, live, and on, we'll share them through the Facebook to kind of give you our updates and, give us our thoughts on the fight as well. And I want to make sure I put the banner out for it because, I got to give that love out. Here we go. August 11th, Sunday, August 11th, at Knuckleheads. There's a big fundraiser, as they do for the Kids for Christmas fundraiser, from 3 to 6. Me and Straub will be there. We're going to be going live. We were going to be interviewing. Sorry, I had the Bedford out my mind with Hodge. Cleveland Browns legend Hanford Dixon. I'm excited for that. Browns fan over here, Straub, is excited for that. So that's going to be. If you can't make it, it's $40. Great food, and it all goes to a good cause. If you can't make it, make sure you check us out on Instagram. You'll be able to kind of see what's going on, and like I said, you'll be able to hear our interview with Hanford Dixon. Last but not least, you all know what this weekend is, and that is what starts tonight with the Hall of Fame game tonight at 8:00. The Houston Texans and the Chicago Bears kick off, which means, obviously, the Hall of Fame ceremony is on Saturday. And on Saturday, that's where you can catch the Straub Sports Show, because we will both be there for the Hall of Fame ceremony. What we are going to do is all TBD. Literally, as soon as we end here, we are going to discuss what we are going to be doing there. We may go live. There's a lot of restrictions on what we can do, so we will go live if we can. If not, we're going to break down everything that we see. We're going to have a lot of fun. We're going to show you as much as we can and bring it to you as soon as we can. Like I said, there's going to be a little restriction on what we can show and what we can do. Thanks, Pop, for the congratulations. I'm trying to get that up on the screen. Thank you. All right. So that's all the stuff we need to get out of the way. Now let's have some fun. So as I told you, we are going to be doing, as we talked about, a big NCAA preview. We started last week with our non-Power 5 teams. We had a lot of fun kind of diving into some of the underdogs, make sure they got them love first. But not just some underdogs. There's a conference near and dear to our heart here in the state of Ohio and just outside of it, and that is MAC football. And who else to bring on to talk about MAC football is the guy who covers them extensively on our network, whether it's basketball or football, and the person who was at MAC Media Day, 216 Sports Network member and host of the Rulers Minute, Rico McGee. Rico, thanks for joining us on the show today. We appreciate you.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. I think this is five or six now. So
yeah.
you're no stranger to the show. The crowd knows you. The people know you as well. So Rico, I want to jump right into this. You were at MAC Media Day.
Right.
Your impressions of MAC Media Day in general, the ins and outs, how it was kind of, set up and things like that. I was going to go with you. Unfortunately, I had to work. But you were there. Kind of give me, like I said, give me your overview of MAC Media Day.
You know what? Your pops just said something about the duck hat, so I'm gonna take this off right quick because we talking MAC.
I got my Zips helmet.
We got the Zips helmet, but seriously, it was dope. It was really good. Like, it was set up really nice. Every player was professional. They spoke to everybody. The commissioner of the Mid-American Conference made his presence felt, and he definitely spoke on some of the things that the MAC has done. And the Mid-American Conference has a lot of history behind it. One of the biggest things I took from it was they are a very underrated conference. They may not be a Power 5 conference, but they've got solid talent that has come from the Mid-American Conference. I mean, you think about Ben Roethlisberger from Miami of Ohio, who we're actually going to get to in a minute. Ben Roethlisberger, Antonio Gates. I mean, Charlie Fry, who played for the Browns, played for Akron. I mean, it's just a lot of underrated talent, and everything was just, set up so, nice and professional, and I like it. I really enjoyed myself. I had fun.
I was looking for you. I watched it back. I wasn't there, but in my research, I watched MAC Media Day all 4 hours. And was trying to, I was trying to find you there, Rico, but that's all right. So, okay, let's step away from that and let's actually dive in. And I agree with you. A very underrated conference. Before I get, your outlook on the season, was there anybody specifically who impressed you that when you went into that day, you were kind of like, I'm not so sure about this team or maybe this coach or this person?
I spoke to Jerwan Newton, wide receiver from Toledo, And we talked about how they came up just short in the MAC championship last year versus Miami of Ohio. And one of the things he said that stuck to me, or he took accountability. He took accountability. One of the things he said was, "Yo, we got complacent last year. We went into the MAC championship game, thinking that we had the thing already wrapped up, and we came up short." So one of the biggest lessons that they took was, finish everything, finish the season strong, don't get complacent, and I think we'll be a lot better this year than they were last season. And that was one of the things that stuck out to me, because I'm Toledo, they're actually bringing back some people. They have some question marks that I'm going to talk about in a sec, but that was one of the biggest things that stuck out to me. And I think Toledo is going to come in with a chip on their shoulder, and they're going to be ready for some football this season.
Straub, do you have anything before I just kind of keep going?
I mean, listen, the MAC every year has either people getting drafted or has people getting transferred to a high-class Power 5 school. So there is talent up and down these rosters, and there's always going to be a team or two that is going to make an impact early on. It's going to be fun to watch.
Definitely. I meant questions for Rico, but that is 100% okay. I did not set you up. That was a bad assist on my part. Bad point guard. So Rico, you mentioned Toledo. For those unfamiliar, before Toledo got to that MAC championship game, undefeated in conference play, we're pretty much running away with it, and then they stumbled, flat out. But so you've already mentioned Toledo. Who else for you is stands out kind of far and above the other teams? As it needs to be mentioned, there are no divisions in the MAC this year. They've gotten rid of the division. So the two best teams that are, with the best record, winning percentage, they're going to go to the MAC championship game. Who else besides Toledo is kind of stands away and is separating themselves?
Honestly, I'm going to go with Bowling Green. Bowling Green last year was tied for first in the country with turnovers. They bring back defensive back Jordan Aludicon, and when he had 4 interceptions last season, and then CJ Brown had all MAC honors. Now, offensively, some of the biggest questions surrounding them is, can their wide receivers make some plays? But I think they'll be okay. They brought in Malcolm Johnson, who's a junior who transferred in from Auburn, and they brought in RJ Garcia III, who transferred from Kansas State. Not to mention they still have Finn Hogan and Jalen Tillman, who can make some plays. I think Bowling Green is probably going to be that team that's going to surprise a lot of people. They're predicted to finish third in the MAC. Actually, they're predicted to finish fourth. If Toledo stumbles, I could see Bowling Green actually sneaking past Toledo and finding themselves in the MAC championship game.
So I'm mad at you, Rico, because you completely stole all of my thunder from my own MAC preview. But for everybody that didn't know, me and Drew drafted teams, and we're going to continue to do that throughout our NCAA preview. So we drafted MAC teams, and then we drafted our ACC teams. I got Bowling Green. This is what I wrote at the top of my preview. Obviously, we do not share notes. We have no need to. Not going to lie, my favorite MAC team to bet on has become one of my favorites to watch this year, last year. I loved betting on them last year when they upset Georgia Tech. But they became just one of my favorite teams to watch, which then became one of my favorite teams just in general. And here's why. Ranked first nationally in takeaways, 36th in 3-and-out rate. Okay. Now that's a legit defense right there. As you mentioned, a lot of those guys that were coming back. I think it may be a year too early for the MAC championship game, but they're going to be there in the race all year long. And Rico, tell me if I'm wrong. You're going to have to beat Bowling Green to get in.
If you're any other team, I think if Toledo can stay consistent, I think they have a chance, because Toledo is their arch nemesis. So that's going to be the big game this season to watch for, depending on how Bowling Green performs. And they actually have a fairly easy schedule this year. I think Toledo is, if you're Toledo, Toledo's probably going to be that second team to beat. Miami of Ohio, they're predicted to win. They're actually my pick to win it all again. But I think Bowling Green and Toledo are probably going to jockey for the second spot in that championship game this year.
I agree. Now we can talk about Miami of Ohio when we can talk about Toledo. Let's come a little closer to home.
Okay.
And specifically, somebody that you cover closely. I've covered it more than a couple times on this show, and that's the Akron Zips. Now, last year, Akron, yes, last year Akron finished at the second to last. I'm sorry, in the MAC, and now is predicted this year to finish last in the MAC. To say that this is a tough job for Coach Joe Moorhead is very much of understatement. 4-20 in 3 years, and obviously, as you see, 2 of those wins were last year. They're going to lean on a very talented defense, and I know Rico is going to talk about that because Rico, you disagree with a lot of the pundits and a lot of the predictors who say Akron is going to have another horrible year and finish at the very bottom of the MAC.
They got a quarterback that transferred from Cal. Him and Taj Bullock are probably going to compete for the starting spot. I'm sorry?
Ben Finley.
Yeah, Ben Finley and Taj Bullock are going to compete for the starting quarterback job, and there's going to be some questions surrounding the offensive line, some of the skilled players, but they got talent at those spots. It's just going to – the question is, what's it going to take, for players to step up? The defense, they're pretty good. They were ranked 31st in yards allowed last season. Not terrible, but the defense is part of the reason why they didn't get blown out last year. So the biggest question –
No, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, the biggest question is just, are those players going to step up and make plays at the skill position, coming out of the backfield, at the wide receiver position, and then depending on who that quarterback is, it's just a lot of questions surrounding Akron. But I don't think they're going to be as bad as they've been the last few years.
I agree. Me and you, Rico, we covered Akron a couple times last year. I know, Straub, you were able to actually be on the sideline with us for one of the games. That defense is not a joke. Okay.
No.
Yes, it did get beat up a couple times by some better teams. They are absolutely not going to be anywhere near in the Ohio State game, the Rutgers game. There's one more. I don't remember. Yeah, South Carolina. No, they're going to get blown out in those games. But for a team that finished 2-10, they absolutely need to go on the road and collect some checks. I got no problem with that, Akron. But that defense is legit. Defense is travel in college football, so they're gonna hang in there, and they're gonna be respectful.
Yeah,
on the field. The offense, like you said, the difference for me is they've got to get out of this offense, this option-based offense.
I think so.
They've got a guy who can throw the ball in there. No, the running back room is depleted. The wide receivers have no experience. I shouldn't say the running back room is depleted. None of these guys have, I think, over 100 carries. None of these wide receivers have over 150 yards receiving. But a good quarterback can help that. And a guy in the MAC, and I'm not trying to put down the MAC, but it's not Cal. It's not what the Pac-12 was. So He's coming in and he is taking a step down. Can he elevate some of those guys and some of those playmakers on the Akron side to make Akron a better team this year? Straub, your thoughts?
Oh, sorry.
My bad, Rico.
No, you're good.
Yeah, listen, Akron is one of those teams where there's nowhere to go but up. And that, I think, is going to be the message in that locker room from practice one, where there is going to be bulletin board material every single week of their rankings, what they think that the schedule is going to be like, and even what other people are saying week to week. And so when you look at that team, you have to kind of obviously, temper expectations, obviously, because of last season and going into this season. But this is a team that really has nothing to lose, and that is one of the most dangerous teams you can be. And so if it comes down to it, maybe they don't, push for anything meaningful this year, but they could be a team that maybe decides a MAC championship game or a team that gets in a bowl game or not. And you know what? That's sometimes just as fun. So we're gonna see what happens, and I think they're gonna surprise some people. And I think they're gonna be interesting to watch.
I think they have the defense to actually play spoiler to a few teams for real, because they're the type of team that you think you're gonna just walk in and just, all right, we're gonna blow them out of the water. It's nothing, and then you lose by 3, and you're like, well, wait a minute, hold up, these guys are better than we thought they were. And
and especially I think, I would hope, a lot of complaints, on the Akron side is, it's not always the greatest home field advantage. I'd like to see those crowds come out a little bit more, especially when it's a little bit warmer out, and kind of give a good defense a chance to, kind of, make some plays.
Yeah.
All right, shifting off of Akron, another team, as you said, who is primed and ready to take flight in the MAC, and a team that my brother covered this week, so I want to throw him some bones too, and that's Miami of Ohio. Rico, walking away from Media Day, what were your thoughts on Miami of Ohio?
They're ready to pretty much win another a second straight MAC championship. They're returning everybody. Pretty much everybody's coming back. Defensive Player of the Year, Matt Salpak. He had 392 tackles for his career at Miami of Ohio. And then they got Ty Wise, who could potentially be playing Sundays. He was all MAC and he was second team, I believe. Defensively, this team is just ready to go. And then Brett Gabbard, who's coming for his 6th year. Listen, he had a horrible leg injury last year, and that pretty much ended his season, but he still ended up getting 3rd team All-MAC honors, and he's the league's top returning quarterback. So they got top rusher Rashad Amos coming back, leading receiver Gage Larvadain. If I'm pronouncing his name wrong, forgive me. Pretty much everybody's coming back. That experience is there, and I mean, it's a no-brainer. Everybody's going with Miami to repeat, and I am as well.
Straub, that's your team.
I mean, I don't want it to be because, we got a little rivalry going. But, no, listen, Rico's exactly right. 11 wins, MAC title last year, 7-1 in the conference. And you were absolutely right. They are returning everyone back. However, there is a little lack of depth in this team. And so that might be the only thing that could potentially hurt them. Maybe we get an injury or two halfway through the season. And then those guys that maybe haven't had a lot of reps, haven't had a lot of snaps, maybe aren't ready to step up into those positions. So that is going to be the big question mark early on. And if you look at their schedule, games against Northwestern, Notre Dame, Cincinnati, those are going to be those big games where you are going to see, is this Miami team built for something more than maybe a MAC championship? Because obviously they're looking to repeat, and that's something that is their floor. But I think their ceiling in their heads is going to be something that is going to be much bigger and much greater, because you have 12 teams in the playoffs. You have that group of 5 spot, and they are one of the teams that they are going to be massively pushing for that. It's going to be tough, but
don't worry. Notre Dame will make Miami look really good.
So will Cincinnati, so don't worry about it.
So, all right. So that not just Miami of Ohio. So I guess I have two more overarching questions. Oh, I lost Rico. Hit the wrong button. I got 2 more questions for you, Rico. My first is, give me a team to look out for other than the ones we have named that might make kind of a, whether you think championship run into the MAC, or just a team that is going to disrupt some seasons in the MAC.
Honestly, Northern Illinois might just make a little bit of noise this season. I think they're trending upward. I mean, they went 7-6 last year, had a couple of injuries. They'll be in the talk, they'll be in the running, but it's not going to be too much, in my opinion. I think they could definitely play some spoilers, and they're definitely one of the sleeper teams in the conference.
I covered them. Antonio Brown, running back, returning with an offensive line too. They've got a 6'5" wide receiver, Grayson Barnes. You want to talk about a mismatch? Yeah, just throw that ball up to that guy. But how good is running back Antonio Brown and that veteran offensive line? I found this. I thought this was great. running. I'm sorry, third in total rushing yards before contact. My guy Ali Gordon
Wow.
III at was number 1 on that list. So yeah, that's a pretty damn good offensive line in the MAC. And
Yeah.
defensively, they probably have one of the best or second best secondaries in the MAC. So even though they've lost 3 top defensive linemen, if the rest of these more experienced, and when I say more experienced, they got guys with 200 snaps or more, absolutely. Northern or almost called them Northwestern. Northern Illinois can absolutely kind of make some noise and disrupt them in the MAC. All right, I got a bigger overall arcing question for you, Rico.
What's up?
If one of these teams in the MAC, whether it be Toledo, Northern Illinois, or Miami of Ohio, let's stay with the big 3. If they were to run the table in the MAC and potentially, obviously, I don't know about everybody's outside of their schedule, but if they were able to make some noise, maybe upset one of the ranked teams on their schedule and run through the MAC, is there a possibility a MAC team could knock on the door of a 12-team college football playoffs?
I think they wouldn't have a choice but to listen. If they can, let's just say for the sake of the argument, Akron runs the table, right? I'm just as an example. Let's just say you beat Ohio State, you go in the South, you do your thing. The committee wouldn't have a choice but to listen. You have to. I mean, you're talking about Ohio State is what, ranked second start in the preseason polls?
Yep.
You would have to listen. You would have to listen. I mean, you just wouldn't have a choice. I mean, it's 12 teams now, and they're showing you, they're giving you the resume. Like, listen, Kent State plays Penn State this season. And we've seen college football things happen, right?
Yeah.
Let's just say Kent State goes into Happy Valley and pulls off one of probably the biggest upsets since Appalachian State over Michigan that one year. Let's just say that happens. I think, and they're able to run the table, you would have to listen. They're making their case. You can't leave them out at that point.
Drew?
Yeah, I think when you look at it, there are 3 things of criteria that you have as a group of 5 team. You obviously have to go undefeated in your conference, or at least like a very close 1 loss. You have to have a win or 2, a signature win or 2 outside of the conference. And then you kind of have to have some sort of foundation that you built the year before. And so when you look at those teams, Miami won the MAC title and now play Cincinnati and Notre Dame and Northwestern. And so if you can get a couple of those wins and run the MAC 100%, Bowling Green, like we talked about, have had had a good year, but if they take that next level, they play Penn State and Texas A&M. Those are 2 wins that you could definitely do it. Toledo really doesn't have a marquee win out of conference, but that they still have that foundation from last year that if they run it again, you could still do it. And so it all depends on kind of the stars aligning, because that is kind of what you have to do when you are a group of 5 team. You can't just win. You have to win in a fashion that shows that you can compete with other teams that maybe have a massive advantage over you.
You brought up their schedule, so I want to use that Bowling Green schedule, and let's pretend it's blanketed across every team in the division. You said Penn State and Texas A&M. Let's say
back. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, that's okay, and that's extremely tough, and the committee will look at that too. They're not going to get knocked for that. So here would be my question, okay? So you're any team in the MAC, let's say they beat Texas A&M, stay and they lose respectively to Penn State, and then run the table in the MAC. Is that enough?
Yes.
I think so. Yeah. If you knock off one of those 2 teams, because
I like it.
If let's just say you go in there, and I think, you lose to Penn State, but you lose very close game. But then you go into Texas A&M, the home of the 12th man, and you beat them. I think you have a chance. I think you make a case. I think you're in. I think you get in.
Yeah.
I think the biggest thing there, though, is that, and what's tough is you have to make sure that no one in any other conference does the exact same thing.
Right.
Because you're only going to get probably one spot. And so that is going to be your big thing is you can do all that. But then if Appalachian State runs the table and has a win, then it's like, now you're picking hairs and you might not make it. And so that's going to be the tough thing is you just have to get extremely lucky in these scenarios. But hey, it's happened before.
Right. No, the thing no, and I have not been the biggest proponent of 12 teams. I don't like it. What I will say that I do like, yeah, 8 would have been better. 8 was perfect. But what I do like about 12 is it absolutely sets up an opportunity where if last year, if we have a Liberty, and that's who everybody talks about, Liberty would have been in the 12. Liberty would have been in the 12. There's also a possibility a Liberty could get in, and so could a Toledo, and so could a Miami of Ohio, so could a Bowling Green, which pick the team out of the MAC. One of those teams could also make it if they win those games. Before, it was only going to be one. When we had 4 teams, there was no way in hell we were getting one unless, and I know you're putting your arm up because you're talking about your University of Cincinnati team. You were not Liberty and you were not the MAC. No offense.
No,
I know you were playing in the American that year, but your schedule was legit and you had the best thing that one of those teams could happen. Let's say that they do upset a Penn State. Well, what happened with Cincinnati is they went into Notre Dame, beat Notre Dame. I then didn't lose the rest of the year. So as I continued to rise up the rankings, you had no choice but to put Cincinnati right up there with me because that was their win. So if you're a team like Bowling Green or if whoever you're one of these guys and you could get one of those historic upsets and then have that team continue to win, man, it would look good. So that would be my one thing there that I do like. Yes, Rico.
Not to mention that, let's just talk about Miami for a minute. They lost to Appalachian State in the Cure Bowl last year, 13-9. They probably got robbed. But anyway, no, but yeah, like I really believe that the committee, and looking at Miami's schedule, you go on the road at Northwestern, then you play Notre Dame at Notre Dame. I mean, it's doable. I do believe that
if one team's going to lose to a MAC team, I'm sorry, Ken, it is going to be Notre Dame.
Oh man, I mean, we've got the Navy loss, we've got the Marshall loss. I mean, it would only. Oh, don't do this. Don't do that to me.
They've got the defense to compete with some of these teams. Now, I think they can beat Northwestern, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So Rico, closing thoughts on the MAC.
Closing thoughts. It's only going to probably be a 2-team race, maybe 3. A lot of teams are in rebuilding, are still trying to build for the future. That's basically what it's going to come down to. The question for real is, can Miami of Ohio shoot for the college football playoff? If they can take care of business throughout the year, don't lose no ridiculous game, and don't lose in a ridiculous fashion is what I should say. Take care of business. Can they make the college football playoff and be one of the first team in the MAC to make the playoff? That's basically what it is. It's a 2-team race with maybe 1 or 2 teams on the side that could play spoiler.
That right there is why this is going to be one of the most historic college football seasons we have in a long time. When have you ever been able to say that about the MAC?
Right.
Or any of these lower division teams. This isn't just on the MAC. So that's awesome. All right. So Rico, last before we get you out of here. NFL training camps have started. I know you're excited about your Atlanta Falcons. Kirk Cousins is not practicing ever or going to play in any of the preseason or do anything. So I know you're excited about that, and your Atlanta Braves. Two-part question: Are you more excited now that training camp is open than you were during the draft for your Falcons? And are your Braves going to hang on?
Listen, I don't know, man. The injuries for the Braves are just piling up. They don't have a closer, and it's just the Braves is like, you know what? If we don't make it, it's cool. I understand. The Falcons, I don't really get caught up in. I've never been one to get caught up in training camp. They're talking
That's
about
fair.
how good Michael Penix Jr. looks. I'm like, he's
We
probably
talk
going
about practice.
Yeah, they're talking about practice. He's going up against the second team. We don't have any depth at the secondary position. For real, for real. We still got to build. It's still going to be a long ass time. I don't have any expectations.
Yeah.
We'll see what happens. It's just one of those we'll see. I'm not going to throw anything this year like I have in previous years. I'm going to just.
Let's get through the preseason before we do anything like that. No, I'm with you. No, that's and you know what? I 100% agree with you on your Braves. If it doesn't happen this year, I don't think there's anyone to blame there. Thanks again for jumping on with us, Rico. Like I said, you can catch Rico McGee on the Rulers Minute all over. Actually, here, Rico, the floor is yours. Tell the people where they can find you.
Man, y'all can find me on YouTube at the Rulers Minute Show with Rico McGee. You can find me on TikTok at the Rulers Minute 216. You can find me on Instagram at the Rulers Minute 216. I'm rebuilding my Facebook page, but TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube is where you can find me definitely. And I got an episode talking about Black college football. I'm gonna give you my top 5 college picks for football, regardless of division. So stay tuned because that's coming down. And I'm gonna be talking about the decline of the American heavyweight in boxing. Thanks, Mr. Straub. I appreciate you.
Absolutely. And listen, you can check all of those out, like I said, on all of Rico's platforms, and we share them through on the 216 Sports Network, hell, on my page as well. So you can find Rico's stuff everywhere. Thanks a lot, Rico. We appreciate you joining us, man.
Hey, man, thank you. Thank y'all for having me. It's always fun when we do this, man. We like the Avengers, man.
Absolutely. The sports superheroes, baby. Let's get it. All right, man. All right, bro. So Dolo, now let's wrap up the MAC. I want to run through this real quickly because we've got a lot to talk about still. Okay.
Yes.
One of the teams. So we'll kind of bounce back and forth. Like I said, we talked about most of these. One of the teams that we did not talk about, so I wanted to give them a little bit of the shout out because they're another team local and close to us, and that would be. Oh, I need to check on one thing real quick. All right, no, Rico's good to go. Make sure before he left, all his stuff was downloaded, and we made sure the episode didn't get screwed up. And that's Ohio University, the Bobcats. The Bobcats are literally the definition of what you have to do in a non-Power 5 school, especially in the MAC. Coach Tim Albin lost 21 players to bigger conferences or the pro leagues.
Oh,
okay.
God.
All right. 17 transfers he brought in from the FCS level or lower, and that is absolutely how you got to do that. They had some bowl game hype from Parker Navarro, Ricky Hunt, 115 and 4 scores in that Myrtle Beach Bowl. So the Bobcats are kind of riding a lot of bowl game hype, which is scary sometimes. Sometimes it's good for you, sometimes it is not, depending on how they cashed in. So that is somebody I wanted to give some love to. Anybody else you want to throw out before I finish up with my last team?
I do actually. There's one team that we didn't really touch on, and is actually if you look at they have I forget who did the rankings, but they have like the toughest jobs in college football, right? Mm-hmm. And consistently every year, Eastern Michigan is up on that list. But you know what? Head coach Chris Creighton is one of just the staples of this program. 6 bowl games in 8 years. There's only 4 starters returning on offense, but they bring in quarterback Cole Snyder from Buffalo, who threw for 2,000 yards. Running back Delbert Mims III from NC State, so you get a little bit of a Power 5 boost there. And JUCO wide receiver Ron Singleton. And listen, JUCO wide receiver, JUCO players in general always have a chip on their shoulder, and you never know what you're going to get. The sky is a limit like that. And so Eastern Michigan, that with a defense that they always bring every single year, this is a team that I know they went 6-7. I know they went 4-4, but this is a team that is very consistent, will lean on what it's good at, and I think is always a chance to get either 8 to 9 to 10. They do have some. They could regress a little bit, but I do think that they are going to consistently get better and be as consistent.
Oh, you did so good.
There's something about job done, and I think that's a big thing.
No, I like that. You also had Kent State on there. I think you should finish with a little bit on them. The last team I also wanted to highlight. Sorry, behind me. Yeah, no. Last team I wanted to do highlight as I'm trying to get Rico back. I need him to jump back in the lobby, so I was handling something behind the scenes, and that's Western Michigan. Another sleeper, kind of like Bowling Green was. Matt coach Lance Taylor in his second year now brings back all his leaders, offensive on the offensive side in passing, rushing, receiving, 2 all-conference linemen, 15 defenders with 250 snaps. He's going to have 12 of them back. That's huge for a MAC team to be able to turn that around and keep those kind of guys. The key for this team to turn around a 4-8 season, as you see, 7 of those losses were by 13 or more. They got to keep these games a little bit closer. So that's just another team on that other side. Obviously,
and I will say about them.
Yes.
About them, like we said, 4-8, it was very close, but they did have wins over Central and Eastern Michigan last year. So 2 key wins against your rivals in the conference always boost optimism in the locker room. And so I think 4-8, if you're going into your second year, I think there's a lot of room for improvement there and a lot of room for optimism and hope. And so, you know what? That Western Michigan team, I think there is a underdog mentality there, and I think there's every right to be, because I think that this team could be really good.
And then last, not least, Kent State picked to finish last in the MAC, unfortunately. That's going to be a tough one. You tell me, you covered them. I mean, it's not great.
No, listen, a rough first year for new head coach Kenny Burns. 1 win, a minus 239 scoring margin, only 1 loss under 10 points. It was very rough. But as every MAC team does, they find ways to give themselves reasons for hope. They are bringing 12 starters back. Kansas transfer Kai Thomas and Gavin Garcia are a boost to the backfield. Wide receiver Krishan McCray is someone to look out for. The real question is who's going to get them the ball and how much time will he have to get it to them? They have a quarterback battle, and the O-line gave up 41 sacks last year. So if you can figure out a way to give your quarterback time and your running backs time, this is going to be a team that I think could steal some wins, improve upon last year, which is honestly not too hard to do. And I think this is a organization that is putting their faith in Kenny Burns to slowly rebuild this program for what it was left with. And I like them. It's going to be very rough, and there's going to be some very tough games, but I think it is going to be a season of hope for next year, and I think that's all they can ask for.
Yeah, nailed it. I don't think you could have done that any better. All right, so that'll do it for the MAC. That was great. It was good to have Rico on. I want to shift over. I want to kind of break up our college football talk. I don't just want to talk college football for 2 straight hours. I love college football, but
sure?
How that would. Okay, no, I could talk college football just by itself for like 4 straight hours. But all right. So that wasn't the only thing that happened this week, though. We have a lot of other things going on in sports, but not what you would normally think. And that's because it's not your normal thing. And that would be the Olympics. I'm going to be flat out. I'm going to be honest with you. Okay. I'm all in. I could not be more all in on this. They've got this gold zone channel, basically, where they just keep you updated on everything live. There's 4 boxes. There's 6 boxes. They go octabox. It's the most amazing thing you have ever seen in your absolute life. I have fallen in love with it. I know you are going to update us here in a second, but I'm all in this USA, man. We run it, kind of. Not exactly. Actually, no, this has kind of been one of the more disappointing Olympics, actually, for the United States. Go ahead and show them that medal count.
So, listen, obviously, you see the main one on the right, which is your total medals, which we still lead in. We are still firmly ahead. This is as of yesterday, so don't kill me if, this today there was more medals won for some teams. But as you can see on the left-hand side there, we are slacking in the gold medals. And so it's a little frustrating. We usually dominate, but we do have golds in artistic gymnastics, fencing, and 3 in swimming, which actually is a total of 17 medals in swimming. So obviously we have that advantage as we always do. But yeah, there is some things that, we haven't been as good as we have in recent years.
I mean, here's the thing on the men's side for the swimming side, the rest of the world got tired of us whooping their ass. So they've absolutely caught up. That's
Don't hit on the women's
honestly,
swimming so much.
not so much on the women's side, but here's what I'm gonna say about this. Our core of our women's side, all of these, and I apologize, I think I might have said girls. All of these women are like now 26 to 28. They're done. They want to go start families. They want to have lives outside of swimming. I mean, and I'm not. We're not pulling a Harrison Buckner here talking about who should be anywhere. But
No.
if you're gonna start a family and you're Michael Phelps, you can swim a lot longer than any of these women want to if they want to start families. That's just kind of how it goes.
Obviously.
A lot of these girls, but they've even talked about it, a lot of these women are hanging it up. A lot of these women are their last Olympics. So no, they're not at the top of their game. So you're seeing a couple more bronzes, you're seeing a couple more silvers. But for the most part, we're still whooping butt. All right.
Yeah.
Katie Ledecky's still out there in the 1500 just lapping people. Oh, is that tonight? Is that a spoiler alert?
No, that's a later segment that I have.
Oh, I got you. But yeah, it's been awesome. And I mean, dude, when I'm talking about all in on this, I mean, and I wrote some of this stuff down because I wanted to specifically talk about it. I mean, how could we not talk about Simone Biles? Just the goat.
God, yeah.
Okay. The female goat of whatever the hell you want to talk about. She's out here doing tricks that are named after her because no one else in the bleeping world can do them but her, while she's got a twisted ankle or calf, quad, whatever is wrong with the girl. They're keeping the injury
incredible.
more secret than they do during hockey games. But she's still out there whooping it. But yeah, I mean, table tennis. First of all, the kid from France.
God.
Not LeBron or LeBron. The kid who does the LeBron fist pump. That dude is awesome. He's like 17 years old, just smoking people in ping pong. I was watching shooting. How about our United States women's rugby team?
Oh my God, dude.
If you didn't watch this, they won bronze on a walk-off. Literally, they were at their very own end, scrumming it out and throwing the ball around however you do it in rugby. I'm not about to pretend like I know what to say. And this girl took off and ran it the whole length of the field, scored with no time left. Then they kicked it through a really big, skinny upright, and we walked off with a bronze. We beat Australia. Shout out to that. I've been watching water polo, which is I played some in high school because I was on the swim team. I did some swimming. That's the hardest sport in the Olympics. I'm going to tell you right now. But one of the funnest things, I'm not going to lie, other than Snoop Dogg, one of the funner things about the Olympics is, and I'm not going to lie, watching the sports we're not in.
Yeah.
Like, love me some handball. Still feel like I played the wrong sport and I absolutely should have done me some handball. But yeah, that's some of the fun stuff too. I got some other stuff. I'll save it when we give out awards. I know you do too. But yeah, women's boxing. The women's boxing. There was the girl from Cleveland got her butt whooped this morning, unfortunately, by some girl, and that girl can swing. The male boxing, one of our Americans did get through. I've been watching some of that. I've been watching judo. What else? Shooting.
Yeah. So obviously we have, the U.S. and men's and women's basketball team both starting off 2-0, which is really nice. Yeah. And also something that we were kind of covering earlier, the U.S. men's and women's soccer was in the Olympics, and they both qualified for the knockout stages. And we'll bring this up here. The men, a little bit of a tough sledding, but it's against France, who is really good at soccer, and also the host country, so that's going to be super hard to overcome. But back-to-back wins against New Zealand and Guinea has them advancing for the first time since 2000.
I mean, so this is what I want to talk about. First of all, the women, I mean, they obviously should make it, but the men, yes, obviously they defeat to France, but what did we talk about? Take care of business. Let's get into the group stage and let's just have some fun. Now, from this point forward, it's squeaky bum time. Okay. Oh, yeah. Everyone's going to be tight. Everybody's going to be nervous. So there's an opportunity for us to sneak in there and kind of make some noise. Now the women, they took care of business like they supposed to. Right, this is
Absolutely.
the team that absolutely should medal. It should be gold or silver. But I prefer gold. I mean, but I'm a bougie American. But for this men's team, we sniff a gold medal, and I'm gonna be the most excited I've been in a long time.
No, you're absolutely right. And speaking of the women, as you can see, they ran the gauntlet. They're the first women's team to advance to the knockout with winning every game in back-to-back Olympics. Technically, Canada did that right after us, but they also were cheating with drones, so we're not going to qualify them as the second best. And also, who cares about second best? We're the first best.
Absolutely. Oh, and since we did mention boxing, and Rico talked about it, yeah, that the fight was a very close fight, but unfortunately she did get beat. But go ahead, back to what you were saying.
Yeah, so looking forward, Friday, August 2nd, that's tomorrow, by the way, at 9 a.m., the U.S. men's will play Morocco. That is going to be a fun game. Morocco, actually, they did bring a strong squad this year. Hakimi, their right back, which is one of the best right backs in the world, will be available, so that'll be very, very tough. But I think that we do have a shot. I'm going to be watching it very intensely and not working, but, it's fine. And then Saturday, the next day, the U.S. will play Japan at 9 a.m. And if you remember, about 2 World Cups ago, the U.S. actually played Japan in the finals and beat them pretty solidly. So we will see what both teams have learned, and this will be a very, very fun weekend for the Olympics.
Absolutely. I'm super excited about the game against Morocco. Like I said, anything's possible. You get into one of these games and if you if you defend too much, or I'm sorry, if you attack too much, if you're Morocco and you control too much of the game, sometimes you can absolutely get caught. So we will definitely see how that tracks out. But and then yes, for the women, I'm excited, but like I said, I'm kind of looking further down the line. I'm not going to lie for the women
Absolutely.
to see what they can do. All right. So, and by the way, the most exciting part about this all, we didn't even start track and field yet.
I know.
We didn't even start track and field, and we didn't even start what else hasn't even started? Yeah, whatever. Sure. There was something else that hasn't even started too, and it wasn't even just that. All right.
Also, I want to touch on this real quick. Schultz, the goalkeeper for the U.S. that is playing over Gago Sonina. While I understand you want to win and you want to do this, let's think kind of long term here. You probably want the 19-year-old who's literally positioned to be your number one goalkeeper in the next, like the 2028 World Cup, even close as this one, or try 2026 or 2030. You kind of want him getting valuable minutes, but I'm not gonna say anything because technically this is still the Berhalter regime, and so I'm keeping my hands off this topic.
Yeah, but once again, and I'm not saying that this is happening, but once again, we go into a major tournament thinking this is what's gonna be the goalie decision, and once again, we're kind of like, huh? So we will definitely see about that. All right, want to give away some awards before we start talking about the baseball? Let's give away some awards. It's time to give away some Straub Bros of the Week. Your honorary Straub Bro of the Week, presented to you by Create Your Own Wave Apparel. Don't ride the wave, create your own wave, and become a Straub Bro of the Week. Straub, floor is yours.
Yes. So the reason why I told you not to go too in depth on Katie Ledecky is because she is my Straub Bro of the Week, my Straub Sis of the Week, and that is because she has won her 8th gold this week and also added in a silver and a bronze afterwards. But there's something incredible that makes her that much better and makes her the Straub Bro of the Week. She now owns the top 20 times for the women's freestyle in the Olympics. If you look at the top 20 Olympic records for the women's freestyle, it is just all her. And I think that sort of dominance only comes around in a generation, and it is fantastic that we are in this generation that we were able to watch such an amazing athlete.
Just a monster, dude. They showed the picture of her winning the 1500, and you couldn't see anyone else. No one else was in the picture whatsoever. And she's not the only person who won big, but she's our American who's winning big. So I absolutely love it. Yes, absolutely. Shout out. I'm assuming you only have one because you followed the rules.
Of course.
Good job. All right, here's my 17. First things first. You already talked about it, so I guess it's a half Straub of the week. The United States men's soccer team for making it to the knockout stage for the first time since 2000. We touched on that. I know we like to celebrate gold all the time because that's how kind of we are as American. But I want to give a shout out to the U.S. men's gymnastics team for coming up with the bronze, their first medal in 18 years. Shout out to those guys. They were hype. If you watched it at all, I don't understand how you couldn't be excited the way those guys were hype.
Yeah.
And then my guy Steve, who dominated the pommel horse, the man who had some issues going on, has to keep his glasses on, stood at the pommel horse for 2 hours. But yeah, that is that's
short
how,
one this week.
What?
Short one this week. I appreciate it.
Oh no, I'm not done. I was reading Rico's text message. I apologize.
Okay.
And then let's get to some good Olympic feels moments, right? Oh, yes. Yeah, and as Mom mentioned, the ladies gymnastics teams, unfortunately, I kind of pawned them off with the same way as I feel about the men's and women's basketball. They just so dominant. I just expected it. But yes, they redeemed themselves, came back and whooped their butts on some gold. Daniel Whiffen of Ireland, who won gold in the 800-meter swim, cried on the medal stand. Why? Because he had never heard Ireland's national anthem at the Olympics.
Oh,
feels
damn,
feels in the goosebumps. Shout out to that guy. And I'm not done. Adriano Rano Olivier, who in the shooting event brought home Guatemala's first ever gold medal. That is the stuff I'm talking about. I'm sorry if you can't watch that and feel a certain type of awesome feel and goosebumps. You're not a human being. I'm sorry. So those are giving away some international Straub Bros of the week and Straub Sis of the week. Those are absolutely awesome. All right, Olympics out of here. Awards out of here. Man, it's been a big week in baseball as well. We've got to talk some baseball before we go national. We're not going national. We're keeping it local first. I want to talk about our Guardians. Okay. Because we made some moves. Everybody been saying, make some moves, Guardians. Make some moves, Guardians. Do something. Poking the bear. Do something. Well, we did something. From the Washington Nationals, come on aboard Lane Thomas. 253 average, 8 home runs, 40 RBIs. I did a little diving in. I did a little advance. 45 at-bats, 10 hits, 5 runs, 1 home run, 4 RBIs, and a 222 average against the American League, minus the Guardians this year. Move number 1. Thoughts on that?
I think it's definitely something to shore up the outfield. I think that we are very much right now kind of picking and putting in people in places they don't normally play. Schneemann, Angel Martinez. And so I think this is a move to really just solidify that outfield. Maybe not every day. Maybe, if, he starts to slump, or not slump, but, doesn't hit as well. Maybe put him out there, give guys a break. But this is definitely a move to get those guys, in positions they're supposed to be and kind of have more fluidity when you are putting and making lineups. And so I like it. I hope he does well. I hope, a change of scenery is going to really boost him, even though he wasn't playing too bad when he was with the Nationals. And we didn't give up much. We did give up Jose Tena, which was someone that, had been on the edge for a while, but never really kind of got that boost. But for what we gave up, I think it's a good move to kind of stabilize that lineup.
I like it. There was some major guys to be gotten, but you were going to have to give up a haul. And this team went out its way to not give up a haul. And I'm very happy about that. We kind of made out in both deals where we, like I said, we didn't give away more than we really needed to. One of the other moves that we made, Alex Cobb from the Giants. And I'm kind of excited about this one. And I'm not gonna lie. There was some hip surgery, which he was working his way back from, some shoulder discomfort, which kind of probably comes along with not having an actual spring training and normal season like most guys do. But he was about to make his debut. He wanted a spot in there. in the majors. The Giants were kind of iffy, so we get him. He's going to make one more spot start in the minors before he comes up and he joins this rotation. A career 3.85 ERA, but a guy who made an all-star game last year. Can absolutely eat some innings. A back end middle rotation guy. At his best, he's your middle, on this team, kind of towards the front end rotation guy. At minimum, he's a back end rotation guy. One of the reasons I like this move is he needs to help this stat, because this is not a good stat for your Cleveland Guardians. We have 5 relievers that rank among the top 22 in a pitching appearances. Those numbers have to come down a little bit more these next month or two so that we can get them both ramped up as we start to head into the offseason. I agree with that. I like both of these moves. How do you feel about the Alex Cobb move?
Yeah, the Alex Cobb move is a very low risk, high reward move. I think you are getting a guy. He's 36. He's getting up there. He's kind of, his body's wearing down. You can see this from the injury, but you can kind of squeeze one little ounce every ounce you can get out of him and get him doing enough end of the season, maybe even the playoff time. This is a guy that I think is really going to help just take the load off of innings in terms of your relief pitching and really, I guess, give guys that need a break. And by that, I mean Carrasco. You saw this in the 4th inning that last week. Didn't really do so well, kind of just imploded against the Phillies. This is a move, like I said, it's very similar. It's very similar to the other move. It's to stabilize. It's not to drastically improve. It's not to make us an immediate World Series contender, but it's to stabilize. It's to make sure we have a shot. We can get into the playoffs without, barely squeaking in. And it's to making sure that when we get there, we aren't having to throw out guys that are limping to the finish line.
No, I agree. What I want, and listen, I don't know how it works in terms of pitchers needing what kind of time they need, but I want Carrasco out of the starting rotation as soon as possible. And I want him to become the guy who comes in regardless of how many days rest it is, to kind of give us 1 or 2 innings to bridge the gap. I think that could be what Carrasco could do. I think it would be a good thing for him. Now, I'm going to address this because I've been, and I sign Bauer tonight, sign Bauer. And listen, I'm going to say this because I haven't really addressed this too much. That boy got lit up last week in the Mexico League, and I'm talking lit up. I'm good. And apparently so is everybody else. So
listen, I've said my piece and I don't feel like repeating myself, and everyone knows my opinion on this. And so you have the opinion. I tend to agree with the opinion, but this is kind of where we're at. If nobody is going to sign him, even teams that kind of like us, where they are a pitcher or two away from being not a contender, but getting in the playoffs.
A contender.
If they're not going to sign him, why should we? Why are we going to be the ones that are, he's not fielding any offers. And so what makes us so smart to be like, well, we think that no, guys, that's not how we operate here. We don't operate, picking up guys that are, well past their prime and getting lit up in another league.
No, I agree. I'm out. I have to be there. So yeah, like I said, back to this. I like both of these moves. Yes, we're gonna have to shift a couple things around this weekend, as we said. Bibby's out this weekend, as Nick said. The rehab start. I was happy about it either way, because of a blister. I also had no problem with it. Just making sure he's ready to go. Because we're gonna need you, absolutely. But yeah, everybody has a bad game. I knew that was coming. But before we jump around the major leagues to some other transactions, I want to stay right here at home. I'm glad Ray commented. I'm glad Nick commented, because I got a question for my Guardians fans. Yeah, I'm talking. I want to do it. I don't care. If you did not know, our first round draft pick. What's his name there, Drew?
Travis Bazzana, baby.
Yeah. In his first minor league at bat, in his first game, my man went grand slam. okay? Showing off the power, okay? So here's my question. Guardians fans
No.
in Straub, tell me why not to put tell me why not. Tell me why this man should not be on the playoff roster. Why not?
Because we are trying not to be a prisoner of the moment and gut reaction sports network, and that is the exact thing that we would that what it would be if we did. I'm sorry. Listen, the kid is going to have so many years to prove that he belongs in the major leagues and in playoff rosters. 3 months out of getting drafted is not the time to do so. I'm sorry. I get it.
This is the most Stephen A. Smith first take Skip
Mad
Bayless
dog
garbage question I have ever asked in my life. It goes against everything that I believe in. But man, I saw that power and I saw that home run and I was just like, why not? Why not?
There's so many reasons why not. I don't even want to get into them right now.
If you listen, yeah, see, thank you. Ray got my back. All right, so here I'm gonna give it to you this, okay? I don't like to use what the phrase is because there people can absolutely have a right to be offended by it. But if you had to choose, okay, that metaphor about putting something to your head, you are the GM and you are told by the owner you have to make one decision here of these two. You have no choice. You have to sign Trevor Bauer or you have to bring this kid up for the playoff roster. Straub, what would you do?
I'd pull a money ball.
Awful sports radio topics.
Yeah, this is like this is
what are you doing?
This is peak summer talk right now. It's absolutely fantastic. Yeah, here we go. Bring up LeBron. We're gonna bring up LeBron next.
Could Michael Jordan have led this current U.S. Olympic team to a better final against South Sudan than LeBron did? Coming up next.
Oh my God. You know what? If I have to make that decision, I am 100% bringing up Azana because I just don't like Trevor Bauer that much. But I don't want it to come to that decision. And if it ever came to that decision, I guarantee I'd pull a money ball and be like, nah, no, I'm not doing either. You can fire me if you want.
Listen, I completely understand. All right, I thought that would be funny. I'm not saying that we got to bring the kid up. It's absolutely awesome that he just jumped right in. Minor league playoffs start soon, right?
Yeah, I like that. I like that, Nick. I wish he didn't retire because that dude, yeah.
Hey, listen, I'm just saying. You guys want guys who are retiring. I want the kids, all right? Bartolo's hitting dingers somewhere in the Puerto Rican League.
Striking out 12-year-olds.
Now, speaking of those Guardians, I did some work this week. I forgot to use it for the Mac a little bit, but I want to bring something up. So everybody remembers when I threw this up. This was the first 7 days after into the All-Star break, I should say. Basically, all of the week before last week's show, as you see in the batting average. But I wanted to show you what has happened. Yeah,
okay.
We've got some guys who have started to come back to normal. Jose Ramirez back on top. Josh Naylor hitting the ball again. Look at Yamsky, man. Absolutely starting to hit the ball
Andre
again.
Jimenez, welcome back to life.
Yeah, going from 067 up to 280. Stephen Kwan kind of flirting around in that 270 or that 260 area. That's fine. Bo Naylor had a little bit of a dip, but still that's okay. It's where your catcher is going to be sometimes. But then you got some dips, man. Austin Hedges off a cliff. Will Brennan not hitting the ball at all. Rocchio, as you know. Freeman, I mean, with the worst dive of anybody on the roster, or and I should say getting at bats there. And then Schneemann too, who did get a hit yesterday. I think it was a home run, but still not hitting the ball very well.
Yeah, I mean, the Hedges one, honestly, I went to the one in the games where he had a 3-hit performance, which is like, I think the first time he's done that in like probably 4 or 5 years. So that probably contributed to the 400. He also doesn't get much playing time, so when he does, it's very spotty. So I'm not going to blame it on him. But yeah, no, listen, Freeman is really disappointing, but he's one of those guys who's very streaky. He could be really good for you or really, not great. Schneemann, as he came up and was hot, and ever since has just dive bombed. He is very much a defensive guy right now. Martinez started off really hot, and then yeah, you're right. Since the break has just been kind of flirting back down, but This is why we made those. That's why I made this trade. That's why we are making these moves, because you are going to see these rookies and these young kids regress, because that's how everything works. And so bringing in a veteran presence to just stabilize everything is exactly what you need.
I 100% agree. So here, I got to do it. Go into your DraftKings now. Fire up your FanDuel or whatever you have. Nick's putting it on the books. Cookie throws a no-hitter tomorrow. Book it. He says book it.
I actually
Hey,
I made a little bet the other day.
Oh yeah, did it hit? Or you're just gonna leave us hanging? You're just gonna.
It's a future bet. Guardians winning the American, Phillies winning the National League. Plus 1,200. Nice odds. I'm just saying, throwing that out there. Little non-football. We're still waiting for football to come back. Kind of parlay there. It's nice. I like it.
I like it. I'm starting to put together some college football futures and some college football over-unders. We will absolutely have some fun with that. Oh, that's my guy. He already went and looked. That's shout out to my guy Nick. All right, I'll absolutely be throwing a dime on that. And I'm talking a literal dime.
It's gonna be cracked after the first inning.
Absolutely, it's like the clip that they show for baseball or the MLB Network, where they're doing the no-hitter alert to start the game and the guy gives up a home run to start the game. Yeah, absolutely. Now, the Guardians aren't the only team we got to talk about. We'll jump around the rest of baseball. Before you throw that graphic up, there was some moves. Yeah, you pause. There was some moves that were made. There were some other notable trades. The Dodgers dodgered. They went and got Jack Flaherty from Detroit with a big package. No diddy. The Orioles acquired outfielder Elroy Jimenez from the White Sox, and they got Trevor Rogers. The Padres, with a surprising and a big move, went and got closer Tanner Scott from the Marlins. Any other moves intrigue you? Any other moves poke you? Make you feel a certain type of way?
Not particularly. I mean, I appreciate the White Sox and the Tigers trying to get worse. That really makes me feel better. And honestly, the Twins not making any trades kind of helps as well. They didn't really try to get better, so I'm okay with that. I was looking more in division, kind of see how we stacked up, and I think honestly, we were the only team in this division that really got better, and so I'm okay with that. I am more than okay with that. And I think that's Detroit and Chicago kind of going, we gave it our best shot. We can't really do anything. And then the Twins kind of going, we don't want to give up anything because we're not trying to contend this year. So I'm cool with it.
We didn't give up anything either.
No, we gave up some low-level prospects. We had one or two ones that could have been something, but nothing that's like your first like top prospects.
All we talk about is the depth this team has at the infield position. You just drafted overall number 1 pick, a guy who's going to play in the infield. I'm okay with getting rid of an infielder. And let's be honest, the pitcher that we did give up, if he was worth a damn, he'd have been up on this roster. Because everybody who was worth a damn with an arm has been up on this roster for a long time.
And not been traded because there's, listen, I was going to say, we crank out pitchers like we're printing out money. And so if he was worth his salt, we would not have been giving him up.
100%. Okay, Rico McGee is complete. I don't know if he can hear me about that, but no, that's no worries. I wanted to point that out. But yeah, I agree. I like it. I like that nobody in the division is pushing as hard as we are, even though nobody thinks that we like overly pushed. I'm not, you know what I mean? No. But it is what it is. I wanted to bring back up Nick's comment. Oh no, never mind. On my screen, his picture looked funny, so I was just seeing what was going on there. All right. So that'll do it for that part. What I do want to talk about before you go ahead. It's graphic time. Go ahead. Yes, go ahead. As we take a look around the rest of the American League, talk to me.
Yeah, listen, the Yankees, unfortunately, I mean, they're battling with Baltimore. Those are your two big teams in the East. I mean, obviously Boston, kind of staying there, staying alive, staying in the race, but really just has to make a surge to make any kind of swing at this. When you look at the West, Astros and Mariners are now in a kind of back and forth. Unfortunately, when it comes to Seattle, they're not great at holding division leads. So I will probably see Houston continue to kind of extend that lead, but we will see.
Man.
And then, listen, you have 3 AL Central teams, at least at 59 wins, almost at 60. And so as long as listen, you don't want to get in that wild card race. You have the Yankees, you have the Orioles if they give it up, you have the Mariners, you have the Astros if they give it up, you have the Twins, and you have the Royals, all hovering around 60 wins. You do not want to give up this division lead because it might be almost impossible for you to even get into the playoffs, if not do anything once you're in it.
No, I agree. Some big news around the Diamond staying here in the American League. So first things first, as Nick pointed out, yeah, we have a big series coming up to starting tonight with the Baltimore Orioles. As you see, they sit at the top of the AL East. This is a big chance for this Guardian team to show everybody that the first half was not a fluke, and that we are back. We're back rolling. We're back hitting again in this bullpen. If we get it to you, if we get it there, it's lights out and you're untouchable. One of the things I also wanted to point out was how hilarious it is. I mean, Seattle was on top of this division. Oakland flirted around at the top, and Seattle was up there, and Houston just kind of was hanging around. And now look at them. I do find it funny that 3 teams in the AL Central would be on top of the AL West. And speaking of that AL West, we had some breaking news that hit at the top of the show. I want to shout out Ray for throwing it in there for me. I was able to check it on. As he said, we had some big breaking news, and that would be Los Angeles Angels outfielder Mike Trout is once again done for the year. We literally talked last week because he was pulled out of his rehab assignment to get reevaluated. We did mention that we were a little bit on top of this actually for the show. Shout out to us. Wasted talent, wasting away on a team that doesn't seem to really care about winning. So shut it down, Mike Trout. Go get healthy and demand a trade next year.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, I looked at his contract. It's until 2031. And that's retirement age for him. And so there is no way you can just like decline a deal to go to test free agency. You have to request a trade here. You have to demand a trade if you want to win anything in your career. You have to Damian Lillard this. You have to literally say, I've given you my all. You haven't given me nearly enough. I want out. I want to win something before I retire. And I don't think a single person, not even any Angel fan, would be mad at him for that move.
No, I don't. And if you did, I couldn't understand how. But yeah, that'll do it for your around your American League. I do want to point this out. That Baltimore series, just like that Philly series too. We're here.
I will say though, the White Sox, like I said, 27-84. Currently, if they don't win another game, which probably will not happen, they are currently tied for the third least amount of wins in MLB history, tying the 1889 Louisville Colonels, who finished 27-111. So listen,
I don't want to touch that.
I don't want to say anything too bad because the people that own the record are the 1899 Cleveland Spiders that went 20-134. So
that's
obviously the White Sox.
That's never getting touched.
No. So, the White Sox, will probably win a couple games, but they have to get to 39 to pass the 1898 St. Louis Browns because the rest are at 30, 28, 29, 27, 23, and 20. And I don't know if they're going to get to 39.
Why is everything like Cleveland related? The Browns, the Spiders, like, damn, we just all over this bad baseball history.
Yeah, it's scary.
Couldn't happen to a better baseball organization. Wah, wah. National League wise, we did touch a little bit on it. The Braves, talking about them hanging on with Rico. The Dodgers are dodgering. The Phillies are Phillying.
And the Brewers are brewing.
I know.
Gotta add that in there. Look at that 61.
I know, and I gotta give you all the credit in the world because you were on these Brewers for a long time. I'm really, really still high on the Padres. I'm really still high on the Cardinals. The Diamondbacks made some moves in the trade deadline as well to kind of try to make up for some of one of their injuries that had just happened. So I'm with you. You're all right there, kid. I see you there with your Brewers. Speaking of, like I said, I did some work this week.
Yes, you did.
One of the biggest things that we talked about, one of my previous nerdy stats, is I brought up run differential. I brought up your top 10 in the league, and when I did, it looked a little bit like this. This was a couple weeks ago. Obviously, as you see, Philly up top, Baltimore, the Dodgers, Yankees, the Guardians sat fifth. The Brewers, Braves, Royals, Twins, Astros. Fast forward a couple weeks, and man, how it changes. On top of that list, jumping up to the top position, the New York Yankees, the Phillies coming in at second, the Dodgers sit at third still, Orioles fourth, the Brewers jumped above, your Brewers jumped above our Guardians, the Royals still up there. However, the Minnesota Twins, bye-bye, the Atlanta Braves, Houston Astros, and look at that in the last position, the Cincinnati Reds jumping up in your top 10 for run differential in all of the major leagues. Surprising?
I mean, yes, but also no. If I've watched some Red games this year just out of curiosity, and they're one of those teams that is just so poorly managed that they have so much talent, and you see it by this run differential where when they are winning big, and if their pitching is on, the batting will take care of it. But in these close games, when it comes down to picking a guy and putting that reliever on the mound that's going to get you 3 outs and get you out of the inning, David Bell, their manager, cannot do it. And it seems like one of those things that if you don't make a decision by the end of this year, you may lose a lot of this talent that's could really get you into these playoffs in a year or two.
Are you surprised?
No, because that's been the Reds for the past since I've watched them. So,
and since I've watched them, and the only person who's in the chat that could say different would be our father, who watched the Reds the last time they were actually worth a damn. So yeah, so that'll do it for baseball. That'll do it for your Olympics. So what we want to do, we want to spend this last little bit. We are going to jump back into our college football preview. We're going to do a little bit of rapid fire. Like I said, we're each covering a certain section of teams. Straub, the way we're going to do it is I'll start. I'll throw it back to you, and you can kind of go from there, and you can take whatever team that you want. I'll kind of let you give your thing, and we'll go from there. One of the things I did want to add, because I want to give myself credit for the homework that I did. Recruiting is a major thing in college football. It's something that I've paid attention to for the longest time. I'm not going to lie. I've kind of always been big on it. I've always wanted to know who's coming into Notre Dame. So what I went through, and I did it for the MAC, and I will touch on those, but that's not the MAC. That is. And that is the recruiting rankings. I went through. Now, what you see is the list here is I rank them, obviously, by their rank in, overall. There's 3 categories. RR, that is your recruit ranks. That is strictly guys coming in from high school. Your TR, your transfer rankings. Yes, that's a real thing. We rank the transfer portal. And they put those scores together, give you an overall ranking, and that's what they were ranked by. No surprise, the Toledo Rockets were at the top of that. Now, I wanted to give you some credit. You talked about it. Eastern Michigan, and I gave them some credit. Western Michigan, the second and third ranked teams. Look who's there in that 4th position, the team that Rico talked about as well, the Akron Zips, Miami of Ohio, another team's expected to do well, Bowling Green in the middle. At the bottom there, a little surprising, Northern Illinois, Ball State, Central Michigan, that's a tough one. But yeah, those would be your MAC rankings. So as we start to talk about the ACC, I feel like we should start right there. There is all 17 teams, or however many teams there are, in the ACC ranked. As you see, the Miami Hurricanes take the top spot. I mean, they are 6th overall in the rankings. There are 3 teams in the top 15 in the ACC, as you see, Miami, Florida State, and Clemson. Little bro will be handling 2 of those because I wanted nothing to do with Miami, and I don't want anything to do with Florida State, to be honest with you either. Boston College, unfortunately, take up the bottom position in there. Anything on that stand out to you besides the one glaring one I'm going to talk about?
So if you look at the newcomer, if you can see it near the bottom, SMU comes in, and obviously way down in recruiting, you're not going to get that boost until you've gotten a couple years into the ACC. But look at that transfer rating. They are honestly middle of the pack, probably like 6th or 7th, because they basically went, hey, we're going to be good and we have the money to spend. Come here and let's build something. That's exactly what they did, because if you kind of averaged out what they did in the recruiting, they're dead last by a good margin. But that transfer ranking is going to save them in a couple of these games where it's going to be close, and you had to have that kind of extra boost. And that's interesting to me because I really want to see how they pan out and how that will lead into next year's rankings.
Transfer portal rankings are a big thing too, because when you're a smaller school, and here I can switch right back over, when you're a MAC school, those transfer ratings are lower for the most part because you've been robbed and you are trying to desperately replace. Over here on the bigger side, when you get into the ACC, I mean, look at some of those rankings. Florida State 7th, Miami is 10th, NC State 18th, Louisville and Cal 14 and 17th. You in the ACC and some of these bigger conferences, your transfers, yeah, you're going to lose some guys who you made some promises to that are unhappy.
Yeah.
But you're also getting guys come in who are trying to show out on a bigger stage. So those higher rankings are going to be more quality players. Obviously, it's why they're higher ranked. But it's also depending on you lose less guys. You're obviously going to be up there. I'm going to leave this up while we go back and forth because a lot of my stuff has to kind of do with some of this, recruiting and transfer portal. So we'll switch back and forth between your graphics and mine as we go because I know you got stuff for us as well. Something I do want to point out on this recruiting rank. First of all, you see the lowest ranked team there, the Stanford Cardinals. I will talk about them in a minute. But as you see, and it's the team I'm going to kick off our ACC preview with, a team that is not ranked in the transfer rankings. And that would be the Clemson Tigers. No, that is not a typo. They have 0 transfers. Now, we are talking about the second year for quarterback Cade Kupnick and offensive coordinator Garrett Riley. 9-4 last year, 4-4 in the conference, which is awful for Clemson. They do bring back leading rusher Phil Mafah, tight end Jake Brickenstool, wide receiver Tyler Brown. Those are your upperclassmen names. A lot of youth on this team, but I'm going to be honest. I know this Clemson team very, very well. We're a divided household because she decided to pick Clemson. I know, like I said, we've played Notre Dame, or they've played Notre Dame very, very often, so I'm very familiar with them. A lot of youth on this team, like I mentioned. I think that's something that helps Coach Dabo Swinney. It's a lot easier to get all these young guys to bring the guts and bring all the extra hoopla and stuff that doesn't make any sense. A lot of what she talks about. But it isn't just young guys. Okay. And like I said, I'm going to dip back over to my bracket for a second. 14 top 15 recruiting classes in a row for Clemson. Yeah. That's why Clemson with a not rank on the transfer portal is still one of the top teams in the country, one of the top teams in the ACC, one of the top programs. So that's going to be big there. The problem is 2 transfers in 6 years. I mean, Dabo's not happy about the NIL. It's going to be tough. So if these guys can pan out, if these young guys can make it happen, I think Clemson can absolutely. I think Clemson can absolutely climb the rankings and make a run for the CFP and make a run for the ACC championship. But the problem is, as you get into this later season, you need some veterans to hang your hat on. And when you're losing them all in the transfer portal and you're not replacing them, it's going to be tough.
No, that's the exact point I was going to hit on is, yeah, you can sign all the 4-star and 5-star recruits you want. But when you get into those tough games, and like we're talking about this conference record, 4-4, you need guys who have been there. And I'm sorry, putting a freshman DB on a junior, transfer wide receiver, he's going to get burned. Or you put a freshman quarterback or a freshman running back there to seal the deal and he fumbles the football. That's what's going to happen when you don't have that experience. And I respect it and I admire that he's trying to do it the way that it's always been done. But you know what? That's exactly how coaches get fired. And I'm not saying that his job is on the hot seat right now, but you continue these 500 records in the conference, you might start to be.
Hot seat. I gave the CFP some love in our MAC segment because what it could potentially do for a MAC team. But then I also want to point this out. Remember, all you got to do in the ACC is potentially have 1 or 2 losses and, you're in. I don't know if people realize how much the rankings
have your starting quarterback hurt.
Yeah, well, not anymore. They would have been in. They would have been in now.
I'm just saying.
I know. If 2 to 3 teams run the table in the ACC, you're gonna have 1 to 2 losses. Okay.
Yep.
I don't think people realize how much the rankings between 8 to 10 have not always fully really mattered that much to the committee. And I don't care what you say. There is no way this committee is going to be able to spend the same amount of time between 1 and 4 and 1 and 6 as they're going to be able to between 8 and 12. So there's going to be big time programs left out, and you guys are going to start crying again that it needs to get bigger, because if Clemson, Florida State, and Miami, all 3 teams at the top of that rankings, all 3 teams at not just the top of the recruiting rankings, as I'm trying to go back to my own thing. There it is. Not just at the top of the recruiting rankings, but at 2 teams in Miami and Florida State at top of the transfer rankings. Somebody's going to have 1 or 2 losses. One of those teams is getting left out. One of those big time programs is crying. We're back at square one. Next team is yours.
I mean, yeah, I will say, though, that not being a conference champion is going to be a major factor, because before you had conference champions not making it in, and it's kind of like, okay, how much are we ranking conferences now? Now every conference champion is going to go in. We're going to be okay.
Yeah, nice.
All right, so
you're up.
My next team is a team that no matter how bad they are the year before or how bad they are predicted, will always say, this year is our year, and that team is the University of Miami Hurricanes. Now, I'm going to switch back to these rankings because I want to show you something. 4th in recruiting rankings, 10th in transfer rankings, 6th in overall. And you know what? They haven't done squats. The biggest question is not, are they going to make a conference championship, or are they going to compete with the big teams? It's, are you going to finally put all this recruiting to good use? You have 14 4-star freshmen and proven transfers coming in. Mario Cristobal, this is basically his last chance for he can do anything in Miami. And talking about those proven transfers, Washington State transfer Cam Ward starts under center. Oregon State running back Damian Martinez is a tempting pair with their running backs. And you have a more experienced O-line coming in with talent at wide receiver. This team has everything it needs to succeed, but they always don't. And so this is what the question is every year. Are you going to capitalize on your talent? And you know what? I also don't think it's going to happen again. I think they're going to start out hot like they always do, and then somewhere along the line when that conference comes in, because you look at that conference record 3-5, and you can say, oh man, before this they were 4-1. They were riding high. They only had 1 loss, and then they just can't compete because you can't just throw freshmen and throw transfers on there without a good coaching plan. I don't think that's what they have in this team. And I hate that I'm getting so worked up about Miami because it's Miami, but I think, honestly, the thing that bothers me the most is just so much wasted talent that is going through this Miami school that could be NFL starters, but because of just the coaching,
they still become NFL starters.
Going.
They still become NFL starters if they don't do anything in Miami.
No.
I'm so glad I didn't have to talk about Miami. I don't want to talk about Miami. I'm gonna save my thoughts on Miami for our right before the season kickoff show that we're gonna have, where we're gonna have Mel come on. I'm gonna have Rico come on. We're gonna have a couple guests come on and give me who they think might make the college football playoffs. We might crown a national champion. We'll give some Heisman thoughts, and I'm gonna give you one of the most shocking University of Miami Hurricane takes that you will find on college football. Just stay tuned. I'm not gonna give it away right now. I'm going to head to Tobacco Road. We're going to come up from Florida, and I'm going to hit the different part of the ACC, and that would be the Duke Blue Devils. I'm going to stay here I'm going to go Duke and North Carolina back to back. I'll let you get in between. 8-5, 4-4 in the conference, same conference record as Clemson. Want to point that out. First-year coach Manny Diaz, a name familiar with college football fans, spent 2 years as the Penn State defensive coordinator. But Duke is a player. They've hired right most of the times. They've hit on some big guys. Recruiting-wise, they rank 60th in 2023. They're up to 59th in 2024, which for a non-football, non-SEC, non-Big Ten team, I don't think that's bad. I really don't. The problem for their rankings, as you've seen, put that back up, They rank 14th in the ACC, though. So that's not good enough. Like, yeah, you're recruiting good, but you're not beating the people within your own division. And that's a tough one then for them. They're going to lean heavy on a top 30 defense. That's been that for 2 straight years. And I think we're going to make it. I think it's easier to make it 3 with Manny defense, who's had good defenses at Penn State. When he was at Miami, he had some good defenses there. I appreciate the transfer of Riley Leonard to Notre Dame. We will talk about that on another day. Grayson Loftus got plenty of snaps while Leonard was battling, but Malik Murphy, remember him from Texas? Yeah, he transferred in. He's at Duke this year. So if that quarterback play is better than last year and it's healthy, Jordan Moore continues to grow, Duke has a chance to make a run to the ACC title game. The issue is going to be both lines that are being rebuilt for the Duke Blue Devils, and that lack of, I mean, the transfer portal ranking is pretty decent. It's in the top 50, but we will see what happens with the Duke Blue Devils.
Absolutely. And you know what? Duke is always a team, at least lately, which is crazy to say, that for some reason just always plays good early, always comes out, you're like, oh, okay, and then just can't go across the finish line. Last year it was injury to their starting quarterback. But I think that this team, as long as they can kind of stay healthy, keep it together, like you said, has a chance to surprise some people and maybe make a championship game.
All you.
Yes. So you took Duke, kept in North Carolina. I'm going to pick a team from North Carolina that actually took Duke's running back, Jordan Waters, who rushed for 800 yards last season. And that is NC State, the Wolfpack. And as you can see, NC State 7-1 in the conference, and that is honestly what they do. They may not be that good outside of conference, but when they get into conference play, they are virtually unstoppable. They just absolutely know how to play every single one of these teams. And you know what? They also added a quarterback that knows how to get upsets. And you know who that is, Ken? That is Coastal Carolina quarterback Grayson McCall, who,
Let's go,
and I will
baby.
read these. I'll read these out to you. Last year, 1,900 yards. The year before, 2,700 yards. The year before, 2,800 yards. And the year before, 2,500 yards. This is going to be absolutely electric. But you know what the issue is? Everywhere else. It's going to be a little tough. They truly don't have the greatest defense. They get up when they want to, and they get up when they can, but they did lose a lot of guys. And so this is going to be a team, and we're going to get to them because they are my team as well. Similar to a Georgia Tech, I think, where maybe a little better, but they're going to be a team where they may not win the games that they did the year before, but they are going to be in every single game, and they are going to be in these games against your Florida States, your Clemsons, your Dukes, that you're going to be like, NC State's going to pull off the upset here. And more often than not, they might. And that's exactly what I think this NC State team is built for.
I like it. We'll stay in North Carolina, as I said. He went with the Wolfpack. I'm going to jump back over and I'm going to talk about North Carolina. Good old Mac Brown. Mac Brown was supposed to come in and just rebuild quickly and transfer it off to somebody else. You can throw yours up. And he just stuck around. He's not gone anywhere.
No.
Yes, 8-5. Yes, 4-4 overall. I understand that. But I mean, he has a right to be there. Because here's what Mac Brown has brought. Okay, banging out recruiting classes. Okay,
Absolutely.
2020 on 2020 16th, 2020 14th ranked, 2022 11th. We did take a dip in 2023 down to 28th. We're 32 in 2024. So we had some dips, but he also had Drake May.
Yeah.
But that was last year. The problem for this team this year is, as you see, now they are at the top. They are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 there. Okay. Or 5th. Drake May's gone. Yeah. So Connor Harrell or Texas A&M transfer Max Johnson are going to have some big shoes to fill at quarterback there. What is made easier, Jake Johnson, brother of Mac Johnson, came over. They've got 3 guys with over 40 catches. But Omarion Hampton and his 1,504 yards and 15 touchdowns on the ground are going to be the key as he is back as well. A defense that walks in the top 80 right now, which is okay. They needed to step up a little bit if they're going to try to touch that ACC title game. But like I said, what's helping them right now is in the transfer rankings, not as great. But look at that, 26th overall. Mac Brown, big shout. Throwing it back over to you, kid.
Yes. So listen, we hit some big dogs in the beginning, and now we kind of hovered over some 4-4s and some teams that kind of middle of the pack but have some room to grow. Let's hit a big dog. I want to hit a big dog again, and you know what?
I hit mine first. You go ahead.
Florida State, 13-1 last year, 8-0. I know we disagree on this. An absolute travesty. They did not get into the college football playoffs. I don't care what you have to say. I don't even want to argue with it. But this team is ready to prove that was absolutely a mistake and won't happen again. Now listen, your star, Jordan Travis, is gone. He's at the Jets. He's not there anymore. Who do you bring in? Oregon State transfer, a player that Ken can never pronounce, DJ, and I'll say it how he says it, Ugalalelele, and freshman redshirt Brock Glenn.
Ugalalele.
DJ will most likely get the start and get the first team reps, but listen, a freshman Brock Glenn, nothing to lose, all the way to prove, going to be amazing. A couple transfers at wide receiver from LSU and Bama from the mass exodus there. A good variety at running back, a good couple power backs, but also some elusive backs. And a defense that literally has improved every single year. They lost a lot of guys, and they're definitely a young team. But Florida State is the obvious favorite here and is one of those teams that I think with this head coach is not going to have to rebuild, is just going to have to reload, and I think is going to be a contender for years to come.
The laugh was you talking about Florida State. That's I already knew where Ray was going with those emojis there. So we won't talk about that. A team that I will be very familiar with and keeping an eye on as they are on Notre Dame's schedule this year. Yes. Currently in NCAA, and I will get that off since we're not guarding the land anymore. In my NCAA career, I currently have a matchup with them, undefeated versus undefeated. That should be an awesome game there on the Xbox. I'm not surprised Florida State's back up in a big dog. We'll see. No excuses for them this year.
Nope. No
excuse. That's all I got to say on that one. All right, I'm going to switch over, and I'm going to I'm gonna hit an underdog. Okay, I'm gonna touch on one of the smaller teams and a newcomer, and I'm gonna talk about the Cal Bears, another team in the ACC, kind of looking to have a better year than last year, specifically on the back end, where Cal finishing the season better, where they had 4 blowout losses to end the game, a blowout loss to rival UCLA, and got blown up by 20 by Texas Tech. In the Independence Bowl as well. They did something I normally really like for smaller schools and MAC schools and other non-Power 5 teams. And they went and dipped into the smaller group of 5 and some FCS guys looking to make a jump. Former North Texas quarterback Chandler Rogers, Old Dominion running back, a New Mexico State, New Mexico State wide receiver, some FCS All-American linemen. But they need to help the line for the most important offensive player. Now it'd be Jaden Ott, who, if the line can be better than it already was, he can improve on a 1,312 touchdown season. Yes, that it could be better than that. We don't give enough love to individual players because honestly, there's so much by committee that these guys can kind of get lost. But there was someone that we highlighted in the bowl game, me specifically. At the time, that was freshman Cade Ulave. Okay, that at the time of the bowl game, and I went back and copied these notes from my bowl game. Going into their bowl game, he was 3rd on the team in sacks. He was tied for 1st in interception, tied for 2nd in forced fumbles, tied for 1st in fumble recoveries, and he was 5th in tackles as a freshman. Went into the bowl game and had 8 solos tackles, led the team in there. That's a guy I'm looking for to make a huge jump on the defensive end. You're going to see him. Like I said, they're going to compete to try to get bowl eligible. They're brand new to the ACC, in which they are 5-2-1 overall and 2-0 in bowl games against those teams. Recruiting wise, as you see from Macau Bears, 39 ranked in 2024. That's not bad when you're trying to compete in the ACC. 17th in the transfer ranking. That's where Cal's going to try to make a statement this year. Shooting it over to you, big guy.
Yeah, that's huge, especially considering you are basically having to tell your players you are not going to be playing on the West Coast anytime soon for any of these games. And so 17th is damn impressive, especially 55th too in recruiting. Yeah, listen, absolutely amazing. I want to touch on a team that we touched on a little bit about transfer rankings, and that is another newbie and someone that I know very well because they were in the American with me. That is SMU, and as you can see, 11-3 overall and 9-0 in the conference in the American.
I gave you all the good teams.
You did. They are. I'm loving this right now. And you know what? You know what? All I gotta say. Welcome to the big leagues, kid. Listen, this is going to be an interesting little thing. I know we had a massive change in our head coaching and our transfers, so that's why we struggled a little bit. SMU doesn't have that. They retain their head coach, and they have their leading passer. Jesus, words are hard. Preston Stone, 3,197 yards and 28 touchdowns last year. Absolutely ridiculous. They also just rank very high in offensive, defensive metrics in the team. They are a great starting 22, as is most high-end Group of 5 teams. The issue, which is, again, for a lot of high-powered Group of 5 teams, they lack a lot of depth, and that is going to, I think, rear its head later on down the year. You are going to get beat up. It's not. I love the MAC, but there are games that you could definitely, if you have enough talent, can kind of get through. When you're in the ACC, man, this is going to be very, very tough when you are down a player, a key player or two, to genuinely even compete with some of these teams later on down the stretch. So SMU, I wish you the best of luck. I want you to do much better than we did in the Big 12 our first year, and I'll be watching you. That's all I got to say.
I agree. I don't think SMU is going to struggle as much as people think. I absolutely agree that they're probably going to finish on the lower end of the ACC. But the thing about some of these newcomers when they come into these big conferences, you're going to have some teams that are just kind of content to be there.
Yep.
I mean, I'm going to talk about Stanford later. You know, there are teams like Vanderbilt. There are teams like just Rutgers, Maryland. There have been teams that are just kind of there. And they're okay with being there. They're never going anywhere. They're not going to get kicked out. So you're going to be able to compete with some hunger and some effort, and you're going to be able to be. I think SMU will probably have a better season than some people might think, but I don't think they're obviously going to run away. I'm going to jump over. I'm going to leave them for last. I'm going to jump over to a team I'm kind of familiar with. Notre Dame has played them a couple times, and that is the Syracuse Orange. Fran Brown steps in his first year as head coach. And it's weird, but he kind of has one of the better quarterbacks in the division.
Yeah, I know.
And that would be former Ohio State quarterback Kyle McCord, who, while has been criticized by, I'm going to be honest, I'm just going to say it like this, criticized by a spoiled fan base who doesn't understand anything other than 12-0, even though they rarely go 12-0. Yes, some of the arm strength has been questioned, but a 66% passer. He gets his home games in a dome. And this is Syracuse, where the expectations have gone down way more than they were at Ohio State, while also himself bringing up the expectations at Syracuse. He's got a bunch of physical receivers. And if you're going to be a little less long on some of those throws, it's good to have some guys who can muscle around. 2 wide receivers at 6'3", Amari Hatcher, last year's leading receiver, and Colorado State transfer Justice Ross Simmons. Then keep an eye out for this name, especially when we talk combine later in the year. 6'5" wide receiver, tight end matchup nightmare, who's back from injury. Orande Gradson the second. That's a name to keep an eye on, and I'll probably get the regular pronunciation of how you actually say it next week. But The defense is going to be the issue for the Syracuse Orange. A bad return rate. Only 6 real veterans in terms of snaps have returned on this entire defense. And cornerback Deuce Chestnut is going to have to be the big play shutdown guy if this team is going to be able to stay in some games. But I'm excited to see what Kyle McCord can do in the ACC. I think Syracuse is gonna have some results in some backdoor covers and overs that are going to be surprising because Kyle is an accurate.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. I think one of those things, though, that I think you have to worry about is, especially Kyle McCord and the Ohio State offense, it was very much a pocket passing system. And that could be okay. But I think one of the things you have to worry about is that when you kind of go into a Syracuse where you're not going to have a stout offensive line and receivers that are going to get open, you are going to have to make plays by yourself. And this is, I think, what Ohio State was worried about is I don't think that he can make plays by himself. Or at least they don't think so. And so we are going to see what happens.
I do want to mention for their sake, as you see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6th overall in the ACC in recruiting, 37 or 36 overall, which is very good for Syracuse.
For Syracuse, yeah.
24th in the transfer portal, top 25. Yes, that includes Kyle McCord. You're obviously going to get some points for grabbing a transfer from Ohio State, but just saying that's big for the Orange too. Throwing it to
Absolutely.
you for your next guy team.
Yes. So we're going to stick with the Orange theme here. We are going to go with a team that was not great last year. And you know what? This team was always about gaining experience last season. They were super young. They had freshman quarterback Anthony Calandria last season. Didn't have a lot of depth. The one receiver that they did have that gained 1,400 yards, Malik Washington, went to the draft. And so you have, like Malachi Fields, and you have some other pieces. But this is a team that now that they've kind of got a little beaten down, and, if we're going to come over here, we're going to look at the rankings. They're second to last in the ACC recruiting rankings. This is a team that is basically we're going to put guys out there and we're going to see what works. Because last year you didn't have enough players. You didn't have enough accountability, I want to say, in terms of 1 through 5 in the receivers, your running backs, your 1 through 5 in your linemen. This is now where a lot of these players are sophomores. A lot of these players are juniors. This is a put up or shut up year for a lot of these players because it might not be a great season for Virginia, but you're going to learn a lot about this Virginia team as the season goes on and who they are going to lean on at the end of the year and into next year. And I do like Anthony Calandria for this team. He had almost 2,000 passing yards last year, and he also gave 225 rushing yards. He is very versatile. But you have to take that step, especially now that you are not going to have that reliant in Malik Washington. And so this is what I want to see. I want to see growth, and I want to see something that gives me hope for next year for this team.
Got you. I want to do a little score update because everybody's interested so far. Guardians currently up 2-1 over the Baltimore Orioles. We're gonna wrap this up here. We're gonna get rolling so we can both get back to the games, and I have to get prepared for primetime Olympics as well. Boston College is another team that I want to talk about, kind of similar to the way I was very, very excited about the San Jose State Aztecs and their coach, former Navy coach Ken. Exactly. And his big last name. Boston College is another team that I talked about when they hired this specific head coach, because one of my biggest thoughts was, hey, sometimes not all coaches are meant for the NFL. Sometimes coaches can be really, really good college coaches. Bill O'Brien in his first year here at Boston College, and I think this is a guy who I really think can turn Boston College around. A team that could already run the ball. Now, what Bill O'Brien has done, he's brought in a passer. FIU's Grayson James has transferred in, and with an offensive line and a running game that's going to be better than last year, and this was a top 25 offensive line. I think he's had success. And the way Dion kind of came in and turned around that Colorado program and gave it a new identity, I think Bill O'Brien's going to come in and do the same thing for Boston College. The 57th ranked recruiting class, 47th ranked transfer class in 2023. 73rd recruiting class, 55 in there, so down in both areas, but he's also trying to completely, gut and gut through and reclean this program. So, or I should say clean out this program and rebuild this program. So yes, while the numbers are low, I'm telling you now, the same way I jumped on that the Aztecs, I'm on this Boston College team. I think there's going to be some results to look at this year that you're going to look back in 2 years and go, oh, that was the start. That was them figuring it out.
So how many Mid O'Briens are you going to throw out this year?
Mid O'Briens, a lot. While I'm also putting them in the parlay with Bowling Green. Let's not get shit twisted, okay?
Fair enough. All right.
I talk about you more as I love you and you hurt me.
Yes, absolutely. All right. So my one rapid fire, middle of the pack, recruiting ranking 33 though, just kind of a little lower on the transfer ranking side. Georgia Tech, another team that always looks for an upset, and they landed Texas A&M quarterback Haynes King. So that offense is going to be fun. It's going to be something to watch. However, the defense was a concern last year. However, they bring in a new defensive coordinator, 9 new transfers. A Georgia Tech team that is always up for something is something that you love to watch. I think they're going to be something this year. Maybe not like top 4, top 5, but that 6, 7 spot that you don't want to go and visit them and play.
I can understand that, except they're on my schedule, no schedule. So I'm hoping all of that upset juice is either out of the way or not filled up yet, because I want no. Probably a different conversation if Miami just kneels the ball. But a team, like I said, they're middle of the pack for a reason, because it's kind of where Georgia Tech always kind of seems to sit. Not surprised that they're higher in the recruiting rankings than they are in the transfer rankings. More than likely, you're going to get some young guys into Georgia Tech than you are going to be some more experienced players. But I'm excited to see them, except for when I have to play them.
Yeah.
Now we've kind of dipped down. I want to jump back up to a little bit to a team that really jumped on the radar nationally once again. That would be the Louisville Cardinals. Jeff Brom came home, and only in his second year already has a team that punched themselves into the national conversations with upset wins, but stumbled with losses to a bad Pittsburgh team that derailed a 6-0 undefeated season, and then a horrible loss to Kentucky, which we watched together.
God.
And then a bad loss to a Florida State team that was on their third string quarterback.
Yeah.
But still, things are looking up in Louisville. The airport, the train station, the Uber Lyft community is on fire in Louisville. They brought in 25 transfers last year, 28 more this year. Guys want to come play for Jeff Brom. That includes former Texas Tech quarterback Tyler Show, former Miami running back Donald Chaney Jr., who I like there, which is rare for me to like anybody at the U. Alabama wide receiver Ja'Cory Brooks. But the key might be wide receiver Callan Lacey, who lit up the Sun Belt last year at Southern Alabama. I like these additions. 14 defensive additions as well. They're bringing in guys hungry for snaps. 38 ranked class as of 24, which is surprising because Cal is 39. So Cal right there with them, but put that thing, it's already there on the board. The transfer rankings, 14th in the nation. Okay, they are all in with their NIL. I'm curious because if they get rolled like last year, they could absolutely be one of the surprising teams to come out and potentially not just win the ACC, but touch a college football playoff spot as well.
Ooh. Listen, this Louisville team, apparently when Louisville basketball starts stinking it up, apparently Louisville football starts actually playing some decent ball. But yeah, no, I agree. That transfer ranking is going to be massive.
The Cincinnati graduate is coming out of you.
Oh, 1,000%. Yeah, 1,000% is. But hey, you know what? I respect him, and listen. If they can repeat last year's performance and clean up some mistakes, they are college football playoff bound, in my opinion.
I like it. All right, finish up with your last team.
Yes, my last team. You went to the top. I'm going all the way to the bottom. We are going to the third worst in the ACC recruiting rankings. We are going to the people who are projected dead last in the ACC, and that is Wake Forest. Oh, how far they've fallen from that 11-3 season 2 years ago. And you know what? There is not a lot of help coming in. You have senior Michael Kern, who has only thrown a couple passes, and you have Louisiana Tech transfer Hank Backmeyer, who again has not thrown a lot of passes, as you can see. Yeah, 1-7 in the conference, 4-8 overall. Offensive coordinator, they returned for some reason because he ranked near the bottom in offensive efficiency when this Wake Forest team 2 years ago was literally one of the best in offensive efficiency. They just couldn't play defense. So I'm sorry, Wake Forest fans. This is going to be another brutal year, and I'm thinking of cleaning house at the end of the year. But you know what? Come and surprise me, Michael Kern. Come and surprise me, Hank Backmeyer. Come and surprise me, Wake Forest. I really want to see it.
Hey, Wake Forest, play basketball. Be good at, go back to being good at basketball.
And baseball.
Yeah, dominant in baseball too. Just go back to being good at those sports because this football thing is not for you. I lied. You actually have one more team. So I will go ahead and let you finish up because then I'll kind of bring us back up on try to have a more positive note, and that would be the Pitt Panthers. Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, you know what, Pitt, they're another team that I'm not entirely high on, just because you look at their stats from last year. The highest quarterback had 1,100 yards passing. The highest rusher had like 500 yards. Their defense gave up, I think it was like 35 points a game. This Pitt team, and the unfortunate thing that they didn't get much better. This Pitt team is going to struggle again. I think they might even be worse than last year. Yeah, no, this isn't a team that I am too high on. When you're leading quarterback transfers to Georgia State to get some minutes and to get some better playing time, that is going to be an issue. But they did keep their senior running back Ronnie Hammond Jr. So he will be your bell cow, even though he only finished, like I said, 547 yards. Yeah, this is going to be rough. Maybe not as rough as Wake Forest, but this is going to be rough. But yeah, listen, they had that win against Louisville. They played Cincinnati close last year. They have it in them to win a game or two, unlike Wake Forest. But in terms of stacking wins, I don't see it.
I'm going to take this opportunity. Well, first of all, throw up their recruiting rankings. They are at the bottom half there. It's Pitt, so I'll take this opportunity to poop on them a little bit more, but also use it as a shout out. Shout out to our cousin Joshua, who's been going through a tough couple weeks. All our love to him, big love to him. When Pitt's on the board, Sweet Caroline, blank Pitt. I won't repeat it, but that's my shout out to him. That's my little private message behind the scenes. All right, one more team left. So let's end this on an upbeat, as upbeat as we can. And that's a team that, once again, I'm very familiar with. I'm very familiar with a lot of these ACC teams. That is the Stanford Cardinals. A team I'm glad is on my schedule. And I hate playing them. And I hate playing them. So that should tell you a lot. I hate playing them because they're always tough. I like them being on my schedule. I like playing Stanford. I like when Stanford is better. College football is better when Stanford. College football is better when some of the smart schools are better too. Okay. Want to talk about a rebuild? 130th in returning production was Stanford last year. Okay. They still put 46 on Colorado. They still put 33 on Washington. I know, not great defenses. It's Pac-12. All right. They allowed 21 to an Arizona team that, when we talk about them, I'm taking them because I'm beyond super high on them. And I was super high on them middle of the year last year. Won me some bets.
Yeah.
The thing that has to change for Stanford in this offense is the fact that quarterback Ashton Daniels and Justin Lamson led the team in carries. Okay. So a running back room with 2 juniors in Ryan Butler, Kenji Washington, 3 sophomores, 3 freshmen. They have got to step up. But, and this thing with Stanford wide receivers, man, they've madly underrated. Eric Alaminor is the guy. All right. He is him on offense. For sure, he racked up a Straub of the week last year, definitely around that Colorado game where he just happened to go for 13 catches, 294 yards, and 3 touchdowns. One of those touchdowns, a 60-yarder, and one a 97-yarder. Certified NFL talent on the outside there if they can get Coach Troy Taylor's vision in his second year is to try to get bowl eligible and keep taking steps forward. Top 50 24 recruiting class. They are now 49th. Stanford going in the right. And how in the right direction? Your early 25 rankings, they are currently sitting 34th. The ACC in the world is better when Stanford is good. Whew! Now, what I'm not going to do, I'm not going to ask for any predictions. We won't do any ACC stuff like that. We're going to save that for when we kind of get closer and we're done with all our previews. But that was amazing. I had a lot of fun with that. I want to give a big shout out to Rico McGee of the Rulers Minute for jumping on and talking Mac with us. Amazing. Nobody covers the Mac like Rico, so it was always good to have his insight. Want to give a big shout out to little bro, a little under the weather this week. He needs to go get his vitamins and his say his prayers and eat his vitamins. We got a big weekend ahead. But I want to thank you for joining us once again on the Straub Sports Show. It, like I said, been a great show. I want to give a big shout out to everybody here on the 216 Sports Network. Whether you're on Facebook, like and follow us there, or on our YouTube page, 5K strong on the subscribers. That's where you can find all of us. 4th and 15 with Mel and Smooth, the Jay Rich Show, the Rulers Minute with Rico McGee. Rico McGee has busted out ridiculous amount of episodes this week. One on some boxing, one on some more Olympic stuff, some Mac media stuff. As you heard, he's got some new episodes on as well. Outside Interference, the Soul Taker was on yesterday. A great interview with Mel. Go make that out. And us, Straub Sports Show. We have many things going on, and you can find us anywhere and everywhere that you want to find a podcast. You can find us on TikTok at the SBSS. You can find us on Twitter or X at Straub Sports. You can find us on Instagram, Straub Sports Show. That thing's blowing up on the Taco Tuesdays, whatever you want to call it, tonight at the Hall of Fame. It's the Hall of Fame game. And on Saturday, you can catch the Straub Sports Show at the Hall of Fame game. That is going to be awesome. Like I said, we've got big things coming up. Also, a big shout out to our guys, our friends of the show, Create Your Own Wave Apparel. Shout out to Austin. Make sure you follow them on Instagram at Create Your Own Wave 2021 and get your merch at cyowapparel.myshopify.com. Don't ride the wave, create your own. And as always, for your sweet tooth, make sure you go to oldtimecandy.com, get all your candy fix needs, everything you need from the 50s up to the 90s. Please go check that out as well. Bro, final thoughts.
Yes, thank you everyone for listening and watching. We have football back tonight. Get in your fantasy leagues. Get ready. Get those mock drafts going. And you know what? Before we know it, we are going to have a Friday night or Thursday night Maction, Friday night high school, Saturday night college, and Sunday night NFL. And I cannot wait for that.
And don't worry, the Straub Sports Show, all your reviews, and don't worry. I've been talking a lot of bets lately. It's not because I kind of did some personal 100 gambling rehab, to myself and kind of off because we're going very, very big for the college football season. All right, little bro, thank you. And thank you everybody for joining us and being a part of the show. We will see you next week with another college football recap. We'll move on to some of the bigger divisions. And of course, we will keep you updated on the Olympics. For little bro, I am big bro. It has been a pleasure. And please remember to love yours.
City.